Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to Alex Morono up against Tim Means this weekend. Tim is an old school stalwart of the game. How intrigued were you when you saw his name on the contract?
Man, I was pretty excited. For whatever reason, right when COVID started and they were like, the UFC was just pumping out fights, I had a hunch I would get him as an opponent. It took about 2 years for that to happen, but like once I saw the name, I was not surprised. I don't want to say I was like relieved, but I was ready and excited for the matchup for sure.
What does a win over him do for you right now?
As a martial artist, man, it would be such a great feather in the cap because he's such a vet. I actually watched him fight live in Houston in Legacy back in the day before he got signed his second run in the UFC. And honestly, I've like watched his fights in the UFC and rooted for him a lot since. This is one of those fights where I know it's challenging. I got a lot of respect for the guy, and again, getting this win would really allow me to accomplish a lot for myself. So really gunning to get that win on Saturday.
I feel like the last time you came up against an OG like this, you knocked him out, Donald Cerrone. Same outcome this time?
That's always the plan. No matter the style, no matter the opponent, I'm always going to stand and crack and go for that KO.
How frustrating is it racking up a nice 4-fight winning streak, and then that's what this game does, right? You kind of get halted in the Ponzi fight. Was that a frustrating one?
Yeah, especially since I was winning that fight like so thoroughly, and man, it effectively had like a flawless victory up until losing in the third. But man, I did learn a lesson that I've unfortunately learned before. But you can never get too comfortable in there. I mean, I just got like way too comfortable, and just like thought I had the rhythm and timing and everything just like dialed in so much to where I kind of let my guard down. But it has made me a better fighter naturally, but also a better coach. Like every time any of my fighters are going into the third round after having won the first two in a recent title fight, won the first four, I always give like a big speech on like not celebrating anything. The fight's not over until it's over. And like the last round needs to be the best and most cautious round, especially if you're up. So there were some really good lessons learned. Plus I got my win bonus, which, at the end of the day is one of the more important factors here now that I'm a few contracts deep. So, there were a lot of positives to take away from that fight, despite not getting the win.
I saw that you said that you're one of the few fighters who actually doesn't have an issue with fighter pay. So you're happy with how it is right now?
Yeah. Especially, the UFC, I think they were really grateful I was able to take that fight so short notice. They had re-signed me for a new contract, and I had got like a bigger pay bump than I'd ever gotten in any previous contract. So I think they were grateful. I'm super grateful. And man, it's just cool. I got no qualms with UFC whatsoever.
It's interesting division right now. We had Usman holding the belt for the longest time, and now do you feel things have been refreshed a little bit?
Yeah, especially Leon winning that rematch. He's fighting Colby, which is cool, a little weird. But then you got Belal right in the mix. No telling what they're gonna do with Khamzat. But no, I think the welterweight division's got a fun future ahead of it for sure.
Has Belal impressed you?
He's won a lot of fights. That's hard to do. Um, I mean, yeah, you know what he has, especially his last fight with Burns was great. He got the win. It was bum. It was a little less fun to see Burns hurt himself, but like to do damage in fights is the name of the game, and him sprawling on that takedown was kind of what did the damage. But yeah, and plus he and Leon, did fight, and it was that weird eye poke. So that's a fight I think the fans have wanted to see. But some weight classes like the 55ers, it's like an all action weight class. Same with the 45ers and the welterweight. There's like a lot of really good grapplers in the top five. So sometimes that can make for like slower paced fights. But just from a skill set perspective, the top five is really fun to watch out for.
Seeing what happened to Colby, if it is really true that he was on the cusp of being cut and then he had a reinvention, does that make yourself or other fighters ever think, okay, I need to do more of that side of the game?
Maybe for some guys, but I would never do that. That's just like not my personality. I have a bunch of students back home that it helps to be a good example for, and I don't know if I believe that. I mean, looking at his record prior, I think he only lost one fight. I think a guillotine by Worley Alvarez, but had won pretty much every fight other than that. I'd be surprised if he were to actually be cut after winning so many fights. But he didn't make it fun to root against him. I'll tell you that much.
So Kamaru's now saying that he wants Khamzat. What do you think of that matchup?
That'd be cool. It'd be a fun fight to watch. Honestly, watching Khamzat fight anyone in the top five, whether it be middleweight or welterweight, would be fun. But you got to make weight. I mean, that was a pretty negligent weight bust from his last fight. It ended up working out for for Nate. You know, it was cool to see Nate get another like legend in T-Ferg, you know, opposed to having such a, you know, hard younger prospect. But I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see what weight class Hamza fights in next.
Nate just had his face off with Jake Paul. Are you pleased for Nate to get that payday? And does he beat Jake Paul?
Yeah, always cool to see the guys make some money fighting. And man, I watched one of the Paul brothers fight an MMA exhibition on YouTube like 5 or 6 years ago, and he did really well. And I was like, oh man, these like young, athletic, really rich martial arts fans can facilitate some really good athletic training. And you know, when they're putting all their focus and finance towards it, you know, that can make a bit of a monster. I've always said it, but those guys, they're not as bad as like they almost like portray themselves to be. I think it's like kind of a gimmick on getting those wins. But again, I'll be super rooting for Nate in that fight. I doubt I'll watch it. At least I'm not, you know, not live. But definitely rooting for Nate on that one.
Did you see Mark Zuckerberg's grappling match? Was that impressive?
Yeah, good for him. It looked like a white or blue belt grappling match. It's cool to get out there, man. It takes a lot. I remember being like 16 or 17 years old doing my first jiu-jitsu tournament. And yeah, man, it's cool to see, you know, because he's a billionaire. They don't need to do any of that, you know, that they don't need to challenge themselves in that way. And it was cool seeing him train, seeing him compete with like regular guys. It looked like the match was as legit as it gets. I was actually like it was a good, like, kind of refreshing scene to see. It's cool seeing, you know, these actors and these, you know, these CEOs and guys, you know, go into tournaments and just fighting the good fight.
We've seen Nate depart. We've seen Jorge depart. We've still got Wonderboy in there. Is there any like kind of old school legends that you'd like to fight before they hang them up?
Yeah, I mean, really any of them. I mean, there's a lot, even on this card. There's a lot of cool guys fighting. You know, Matt Brown. It would be a fun fight, like 100% like respect aspect. But yeah, you know, Wonder would be awesome too. You know, there are the guys are starting to retire though, so it's actually kind of cool. It puts guys like me in that, like, you know, seasoned veteran spot, whereas I know I got a good, you know, 4, 5, 6 years left. So, but yeah, it's been fun watching these guys, you know, have their careers, and then it's been cool to see who can kind of like hang in at the end of them, and then it's nice seeing them when the guys are you know, calling their careers and retiring.
Gonna wrap up a little quick fire if it's okay with you. So, who's the hardest hitter pound for pound in the UFC right now?
Got to go with my boy Derek Lewis.
Who's the best wrestler?
Islam.
Who's the funniest?
I'm gonna go Derek Lewis again.
Who's the most annoying?
You got to go Colby on that one.
Best looking fighter in the UFC?
Ooh, I'd let my wife answer that if she was here. Um, I'm gonna go with an OG Luke Rockhold.
And who's got the best hands?
Oh, my boy Jeff Neal, hands of steel. I mean, I've trained with a lot of guys in my day. Man, Jeff can crack and he's fast, and he does not have to hit hard to hit hard, if you know what I mean.
Nice. Who has the coolest tattoos?
Coolest tattoos. Daniel Pineda. He's got a big old back piece. He got a guillotine in his last fight. I'm a big Pitbull fan.
Who's the best dressed?
Ooh, I'm the wrong guy to ask. Um, Man, I don't know. You call it. Dana White.
Who uh who would you most like by your side in a street fight?
Sergey Pavlovich. How do you say his last name?
Pavlovich, I think.
Pavlovich. Yeah,
Correct.
he's just knock anybody out.
Who would you most like to have dinner with?
Ooh, Islam, so he could bring Habib. That'd be a fun guy to talk to.
Um, which is the most interesting female fighter?
You got to go with Nunez. She's had such an awesome career. Super nice lady. I met her a couple times.
Who'd make the best movie star?
Mm, Cowboy.
And who would be your dream fight in any weight class, past or present?
Man, that's a good question. Honestly, a fight with Wonderboy would be cool. Just like as a martial artist, he's about as like decorated and unique as they get. And that one's semi-feasible.
Yeah, let's see. That would be a cool one if it happens. Alex, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, man.